Have you ever found yourself in one of those conversations where you know exactly what just happened, but the words someone else is using to describe it feel like they're from a different planet? You did something simple, something factual, and suddenly it's being spun into this malicious act you never, ever intended. Well, today we're diving deep into that unsettling feeling. We're going to pull back the curtain on a really powerful and sneaky form of manipulation that happens entirely through language. It's a tactic designed to make you doubt everything, your memory, your intentions, and maybe even your own sanity.
You experienced a factual event, yet moments later the controller recounts the exact same scene using words that fundamentally alter the meaning, leaving you confused and defensive. Why does the truth feel so mutable? This is the dark paradox right at the heart of what we're talking about today. It's a tactic called perception reframing, and it's nothing less than a strategic, linguistic rewrite of reality itself.
So to really get a grip on how this works, and more importantly, how to protect yourself from it, we're going to break it all down into 6 parts. We'll start with what this reality rewrite actually is. Then we'll look at the motivation behind controlling the narrative. After that, we'll unpack the 3-phase tactic they use, explore the psychological battleground it creates, and then, the most important part, we'll build your defensive playbook, before we wrap up by talking about reclaiming objective truth.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the reality rewrite. Now, I want to be super clear about something. This isn't just a simple disagreement. It's not about 2 people just remembering an event differently. No, we are talking about a deliberate, calculated strategy to revise a shared experience. It's designed, from the get-go, to throw you off balance and control you by attaching the very words we use to describe what's real.
So the official term is perception reframing, or PR for short, and it's a cognitive control tactic. The keywords to lock onto here are systematically and value-laden. This isn't just some random emotional outburst. It's a system. The manipulator methodically, consistently swaps out neutral, factual words for ones that are loaded with negative emotion. The whole point is to overwrite your version of events, not later, but right in the moment, so that their hostile story feels more real than the actual truth.
So you have to ask, why? Why would someone do this? What is the end game? And that brings us right to our second section, controlling the narrative. The answer? Well, it's pretty simple and honestly kind of chilling. The goal is not to communicate, it's not to solve a problem or find some kind of middle ground. The goal is 100% control over the story, and through that, control over you.
Let's look at what that control actually gets them. First, they grab narrative control, basically making themselves the only person who gets to say what really happened. This then gives them a justification for abuse. See, their bad behavior suddenly isn't their fault, because in their story, you provoke them. From there, they get to manage the emotional consequences, making sure that any guilt or pain from what happened lands squarely on you. And all of this leads to the ultimate goal, the assignment of blame, making sure it sticks to you and only you.
So how do they pull this off? Well, their primary weapon is something called a valence shift. This is the engine that drives the whole manipulation. In psychology, valence is just the emotional flavor of something. Is it good, bad, or neutral? A valence shift is when the manipulator takes your neutral or even positive action and just swaps the label for a hostile negative one. The point isn't just to change the word, it's to poison the motive behind what you did. Let's look at a few examples, and you'll see exactly what I mean.
Here is an absolute classic. You do something totally healthy, totally necessary, like asserting a boundary. You might say, please don't speak to me like that. The fact is, you set a limit, but the manipulator instantly reframes it. Your assertion becomes an attack. Boom. Just like that, the entire conversation is flipped on its head. It's no longer about their bad behavior. Suddenly, you're not the one standing up for yourself. You're the aggressor, and they're the poor victim. And now you're stuck defending your character instead of your boundary.
Let's try another one. Maybe you're a bit hesitant about some risky decision they're pushing for, and you just say you need a minute to think. The fact is, you're being cautious, you're being responsible. But the valence shift turns your caution into paranoia. It reframes a personal strength as a mental flaw, a sickness. Now, you're not even talking about the decision anymore, are you? No, you're on the back foot, forced to defend your own sanity. And one more, because this is so important to see. Let's say you express genuine concern for them, maybe about a bad habit or something. The fact is, you're showing you care. But the reframe completely ignores your intent. They twist your concern into some malicious attempt to frighten or control them. Your actual motive is totally erased and replaced with a hostile one that gives them the perfect excuse to get angry and dismiss what you said. And this, right here, is how they trap you.
So how does all this actually work in a real conversation? How does one little word change manage to rewrite reality? Well, that leads us right into section 3, the mechanical breakdown. Because perception reframing isn't just one comment, it's a repeatable, three-phase tactic that's built to systematically take your reality apart piece by piece. The whole mechanism unfolds in 3 very clear stages. First, you get the linguistic substitution. That then leads directly to dissonance induction, and finally, if it's not stopped, it ends in reality assimilation. Understanding this sequence is absolutely the key to spotting it while it's happening and, of course, protecting yourself from it. So let's break down each phase. Phase 1 is the opening shot, linguistic substitution. The second something happens, the manipulator instantly retells the story using those hostile valence shifted words we just talked about. And they say it with total conviction. The speed and the confidence here are so important because they create this immediate, jarring contradiction in your head between what you know happened and this completely different story they're now telling you is the truth.
And that contradiction, it triggers phase 2, dissonance induction. See, our brains are wired to make sense of things. They absolutely hate a paradox. This internal battle between 2 conflicting realities is called cognitive dissonance, and it creates this really powerful, uncomfortable feeling that makes you want to fix it. And that feeling is the trap. The manipulator is counting on it. You feel this overwhelming urge to jade, to justify what you did, argue their word choice, defend your character, and explain what you really meant. And now you're fighting on their turf, debating words instead of facts.
Which brings us to the devastating final phase, reality assimilation. This debate over words, it's unwinnable, and it is completely exhausting. The manipulator will never back down. They'll just keep hammering their hostile frame over and over. And eventually, you just get worn down by the fight, desperate for that mental conflict to just end. And you might surrender. You might start thinking, well, maybe I was being paranoid. Or, maybe that did sound like an attack. And in that exact moment, they've won. They've successfully overwritten your memory.
So why is this so incredibly effective? How can a few words have the power to literally overwrite reality? To get that, we need to zoom in on the psychological battleground where all this is happening. And that's what we're going to do in section 4. It works so well because it pits the manipulator's core need directly against your core vulnerability.
So on one side, you've got the manipulator. They are driven by this desperate need for impunity and justification. They cannot be wrong. They must be the good guy, so they have to rewrite reality to make it so. On the other side, you've got the target, who is made vulnerable by a very human, very normal drive for factual integrity. You believe in truth. You have a deep-seated need for your world to make sense. The manipulator, quite literally, weaponizes your own sense of integrity against you. And this is a big but. You are not powerless here. And that brings us to what is without a doubt the most important part of this whole explainer section. 5, your defensive playbook. Because knowing what's happening is one thing, but having a strategy, that's real power. Let's talk about exactly how you reclaim your reality when it's under attack.
Your defense is a simple 3-step process. First, you have to get good at identifying the valence shift as it's happening, really hearing that hostile word swap in real time. Second, you engage something we're going to call the Factual Anchor Lock. And third, you have to be ready to enforce the no semantics boundary, which just means you refuse to get sucked into a debate about the meaning of words. I will not debate the meaning of my action. This sentence right here is your most powerful tool. It is a complete and total refusal to play their game. It shuts down that whole jade cycle before it can even get started. This isn't about being difficult. It's about calmly refusing to participate in a conversation where truth isn't the goal. It's you saying, I only operate in the world of facts.
This is the Factual Anchor Lock, and yes, it is a radical move. You just refuse flat out to debate what your words meant, what your motive was, or how they interpreted it. You only state the single, simple, objective fact. Not, I was trying to set a boundary. No, it's, I said, please don't speak to me that way. Not, I was just trying to be careful, but I said I wanted to wait. Period. You anchor yourself to what actually happened and refuse to be dragged out into the storm of their interpretation.
And that brings us to our final section, reclaiming objective truth. Because this whole manipulative strategy, the entire thing, depends on you agreeing to play along. It all hinges on your power and your choice to simply say no to the debate and stand firm in what's real. So let's wrap this all up. Remember, Perception reframing is the linguistic strategy for how they change your reality by rewording the same event. It's nothing less than the deliberate destruction of shared truth. Their whole goal is to trap you into defending your words so you can't focus on their actions. The pattern is always the same. That first linguistic substitution creates the painful cognitive dissonance that pushes you to argue and defend, but you break the entire loop, you shatter their frame, the moment you refuse to defend your meaning.
By using the factual anchor lock and enforcing that no semantics boundary, you're making an incredibly powerful statement. You are asserting that reality is not up for discussion. You are declaring that your experience is valid, your perception is sound. Because in the end, the most important thing to hold on to, above everything else, is this: objective truth is non-negotiable.